Yesterday, we gave you a taste of winning the water cooler with our best bets for the SEC team win totals. And today, we're going to do the exact same thing with the Big Ten, even though the Big Ten has 18 teams. That's the story for another day. Now, after checking betonline.ag, the best win total bet that I have for all of the Big Ten from top to bottom is Nebraska to have over 7.5 wins. And to be honest with you guys, or what the kids call keeping it a stizzy, I may throw the rent on it. Now, many are going to hop on the Nebraska train this year because of highly touted freshman quarterback Dylan Raiola. And I get that. The dude has a chance to be really special. But when I look at the Huskers' offensive line, mixed with finally giving a wide receiver group who they've upped the ante through the transfer portal a chance to catch some balls because the quarterback can catch a snap, well, that should open up the Nebraska offense like a present on Christmas morning. Now, the quarterback position was such a struggle last year. Nebraska had to be one-dimensional, and even that dimension wasn't very good. This offense should provide Nebraska with more balance in the pass to run, which leads to more overall balance as a team. But if there's one big, huge main reason to get excited about Nebraska in 2024, it's that defense, baby. Tony White is one of the most underrated defensive coordinators in the country. He was awesome last year, keeping Nebraska in games against multiple alternative offensive systems. They returned two of the best interior pass rushers on the defensive line. They have returners on the edge, plus a couple young guys that a lot of people are excited about. The depth is a little questionable overall on the defensive line, but Coach White does more with less than Charmin Ultra. Now, in the back end, corner should be pretty good. Safety may be considered a weak spot by some, but the portal's been kind to Nebraska. So give me the Huskers to win at least 8 games and possibly even start 7-0 with a schedule that's pretty manageable. So here's to a great harvest season in Lincoln. Let our wallets overfloweth. David, former quarterback, stud, still highly touted, 6'7.25", I might add. My brother, almost 6'4". Nice mustache. A dashing mustache.
Yeah.
But David, do that again.
My rich laugh.
Wow.
That's good. I thought
now you just need the money to go.
Now the show's ruined. David, when you look at the
I like the pick.
And I want to go through this.
I like the pick.
I want to go through this. So betonline.ag, here's the over-under win totals for each team in the regular season.
Hit me.
Illinois, 5.5 wins. Indiana, 5.5 wins. Iowa, 8 wins. Maryland, 6.5 wins. Michigan, 8.5 wins. Michigan State, 4.5 wins. Ooh, puke, gross. Minnesota, 5.5 wins. Nebraska, as I mentioned, over 7.5 wins. I'm going to emphasize that. Northwestern, 4.5. Ohio State, 10.5. And Oregon, 10.5. Penn State, 9.5. Purdue, 4.5. UCLA, 5.5. God, there's so many teams. USC, 7.5. Washington, 6.5. And finally, for the love of everything sacred and holy, Wisconsin, 6.5. So you like the Nebraska pick?
I like the Nebraska pick.
Could start out 7-0.
I got the schedule.
We talked about that.
Yeah, can we run through the
UTEP at home.
Dub.
Colorado at home, week 2.
Dub.
Northern Illinois, week 3 at home.
Dub.
Illinois at home, week 4.
Dub.
At Purdue.
Dub.
Rutgers at home.
Dub.
At Indiana.
Dub.
At Ohio State.
That's a loss.
UCLA at home.
Dub.
At USC.
Toss up.
Wisconsin at home.
Very, very winnable.
At Iowa.
Probably a loss.
Okay, so you have them losing to Iowa right now.
I have them losing to Iowa, and I have them losing to Ohio State, and I'm giving them breathing room, really, in reality, for 2 more losses.
So let's go ahead and say they lose at USC as well. Okay, that'd be 3. And then, look, when you start a young quarterback like that, you're going to lose games, a couple that you don't anticipate. Even the Colorado game, that's not a lock, man.
No, it's not a lock by
Sanders
any
and Travis Hunter, they're going to come in and make plays, right?
Well, to me, I think when you look at Nebraska and having that young quarterback, yes, there are going to be games where he makes mistakes, but I'll say the same thing I say about Nico at Tennessee. If you're Nebraska, can you survive the games where that young quarterback does make the mistakes? And they should be better than most of the teams they play.
And the thing
they should be able to survive.
At 7.5, you have room for that.
Oh, I got
That's
so
the
much
thing. That's why I like your pick there, because at 7.5, you have room for a couple of those losses that you're not anticipating, combined with the games where you're saying, hey, I don't think Nebraska's going to punch above their weight and beat the Buckeyes in Columbus, right? And so I like that. The lock that I have, though, is Iowa at 8 even right now.
Okay.
8 wins even.
Yep.
Now, Blaine, you were telling us the other day, Cade McNamara didn't look too good in a scrimmage the other day, right? What were the stats you were bringing up?
It was like 8 of 24.
It was like 8 of 27, 1 pick 6, 1 fumble.
which is the best quarterback performance in Iowa in the last.
So he's already breaking records.
Yes.
Okay. Look, I saw him lead Michigan to the college football playoff. I understand Iowa's roster is not going to be quite like that, but I think they're still going to be really, really good on defense. And even if Iowa's not as great as they were last year on defense, they're going to be better on offense.
Have to be. Right?
And again, it's about what the win-loss total is. So at 8 wins, I mean, here it is right now. Illinois State, Iowa State, Troy, at Minnesota, at the Buckeyes, Washington home, at Michigan State, Nebraska home, Wisconsin home, at UCLA, at Maryland, and then like we talked about, ending with Nebraska at home.
Yeah.
So even if you go 8-4, that's a push.
No, without a doubt. I mean, when you look at, I'm going to be honest, I was looking at all the Big Ten ones. There wasn't a bunch that I looked at and jumped off the page to me. Kind of like in the SEC yesterday, there are a couple right on the front that I looked at and I was like, I really, really like that, including the Ole Miss at 9.5. Nebraska really was the one that stood out, but Iowa was right there just because that number's not super high. And like you said, there's no way, just because McNamara is such a better player than Petrus and what they've had in the past, that they're going to be that as porous on offense again. Will they be as dominant on defense? Maybe not, but they were still so dominant if you're a notch down. To me, the race that I find fascinating is who can make their worst side of the ball better. Mm-hmm. Iowa on offense or LSU on defense?
And USC.
And USC on defense
too.
as well. Because whichever team does that, those are the ones you're going to see make the biggest leaps.
Think about this one last thing on Iowa's schedule. No Michigan, no Penn State,
Not bad.
no Southern Cal. You're dodging a lot of bullets.
For sure.
My team, Michigan State Spartans.
At
Really?
4.5?
It's at 4.5.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, and
Come
I
on.
mean, you got to think. I think about it like this. Obviously, you bring Jonathan Smith over.
Yeah.
It's a big hire for them. You bring your
good
star offensive line coach. You bring in a quarterback and a really good tight end. You do well in the transfer portal. Childs, I think, will be okay at quarterback. When's the best time to get somebody if you're Michigan State?
Right now.
It's the first year.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first year. And if you look at their schedule, it's almost they can turn into a Northwestern from last year. If you go back and look at those Northwestern games, they had 4 one-possession games. If Michigan State can find themselves on the right side of where that ball bounces, I wouldn't be surprised after the schedule to see a 6 win, maybe a 7 win in their team. And Jonathan
Go through their
Smith.
schedule real quick.
Okay, let me pull it up 1 second.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head who they have out of conference. But you're about to tell us.
All right, I got it. You have FAU at home week 1.
Okay.
All right, then you're at Maryland.
Okay.
All right, you have Providence at home week 3.
Okay.
At Boston College.
Okay.
Ohio State at home. Oregon at home. At Oregon. Iowa at home. At Michigan. You're going to get killed in all those games. You have Indiana at home.
Okay.
At Illinois. Purdue at home. You finish the season with Rutgers.
I agree. I think
that's
6-6 is not impossible.
Yeah.
No.
Not impossible.
And after y'all's 2 bets, I feel like that's probably the 3rd best bet on the board.
Well, and Jonathan Smith, I think a lot of people kind of know who Jonathan Smith was. Remember, he's at Oregon State. Oregon State didn't get brought to the Big Ten or the Big 12. So he ended up leaving Oregon State and coming up to Michigan State, which that just fell into Michigan State's lap. The dude can coach. He can flat out coach ball. He's not super flashy. Did a lot of winning at Oregon State. They'll be organized. They'll be disciplined. They'll do a good job with formations and motions. But I don't think Blaine's too far off. David, when I look at the rest of the conference, is there one team you felt like that was kind of overrated, or Blaine, you as well? Was there a team that you felt like the total was too high?
When I looked at the lines, I really didn't.
Like the only team I can say is, and this is going to come off as crazy, but it's Ohio State. And the reason I say this is because you play Oregon on the road. All right, you're at Penn State, and I haven't seen you beat Michigan in 4 years. And you're bringing in a new quarterback.
And it's 10.5.
Yeah,
And it's 10.5.
and here's one thing to add to it. The 10.5 for the Buckeyes right now on Bet Online is minus 155 odds. So that is one thing to consider. Meanwhile, the Oregon 10.5 is your even minus 115.
Yeah.
So you're not getting quite as much value. That's how you could sell it to me, but I still think that's an 11-win team in Columbus.
It is. I mean, I think either way you slice it, it's going to be with the importance, and the Michigan-Ohio State game is always important, but what's gone on the last 3 years, Michigan going undefeated, win the national championship last year, all the good stuff happening for Michigan and not Ohio State. I mean, you would think, this is the year. The question becomes, and the one we've been asking, is can Will Howard make the throws against teams that can be somewhat equal to them, or the throws he has to win the big game?
So what about Michigan at 8.5 then? Because I like that. I think there's a lot of good value right now on that. 9.5, not so much. right? Because 9 and 3
nine and a
would still
half,
be-
9.5 I wouldn't touch. If I had to take anything on the 8.5, it would obviously be the over. I mean, you do get Oregon at home.
Yes.
You go to Ohio State. You get Texas
At home.
and
USC at home.
And USC at home. But even if you lost 3 of those 4, you can still hit that over because it's 8.5 wins, as opposed if it was 9.5.
Yes.
I'd have to be assuming you were going to at least split those games, which is going to be tough. Not that Michigan can't do it, but when you look at the other bets on the board, I just don't think it's as advantageous.
Yeah, because if they split those games, and you're talking about 10 and 2, assuming they hold serve in the games that they're supposed to win, now you're talking about college football playoff.
Without a doubt. Getting it back to when you're way in there, without a doubt. Hey, what's up, YouTube? If you hate pizza and ice cream, do not subscribe to this channel because we love both. So you should love this channel. Subscribe.